Okay, I want you to close your eyes for just a second. Imagine you aren't here, not in your room or your car or wherever you're listening to this. Imagine you are standing outside of time. You're looking at the entire universe, but not just as it is right now. You're seeing its whole history all at once, like a map laid out in front of you.
That's a terrifying amount of information to process.
It is, and in the sources we're looking at today, there's an entity that does exactly that. They call it Observer 1. And this observer has been watching the universe for, get this, 10 to the power of 43 years.
Which is a number so big, it's basically meaningless to our brains. I mean, if 1 billion years is one grain of sand, 10 to the 43 is a beach that fills the entire galaxy.
Exactly. And from that vantage point watching this infinite timeline, Observer 1 sees something that completely breaks my brain. We tend to think that we, humans, biological meat-brain creatures, are the main event. Like the universe was just empty and dark until we showed up to start thinking about it.
That's the standard view, yeah. The anthropocentric model. We think we invented consciousness.
But Observer 1 sees it totally differently. For this entity, biological humanity is just a blip, a weird little glitch. The sources call us a brief resumption of consciousness, not the beginning.
Resumption. That's the key word there, isn't it? It implies something was there before, it stopped, and then it started up again with us.
Exactly. Well, not exactly, because my head is still spinning. But that's the mission for this deep dive. We are looking at a history of consciousness that starts before the Big Bang and goes millions of years into our future.
And we have a stack of materials here that is honestly a bit overwhelming. We're talking diaries from 2050, geological surveys from alien worlds, theoretical physics papers from the year 1 million.
So to keep us from spiraling into an existential crisis right away, we've organized this into 3 buckets. First, the evolved, that's us, humanity, turning into something else. Then the alien, consciousness in places we never ever thought to look. And finally, the ancient.
The stuff that's been watching from the dark the whole time.
And the question we're trying to answer is, I guess it's simple. If you strip away the biology, if you take away the brain and the neurons, what's left? What are we, really?
Let's start with the evolved. That feels like the most grounded place to begin.
Right. The near future. The sources paint this picture of the years 2050 to 2100 as this messy transitional time where we stop being purely biological. And there's this one case study that really stuck with me, a Dr. Yuki Nakamura.
Ah, Yuki. She's a fascinating figure, a consciousness researcher. And in the late 2050s, she just decided she was done with being human. Or at least done with being biological.
And usually when we talk about this, the term is uploading, right? You scan the brain, copy the file to a hard drive. But that always freaks me out because if I copy a file and delete the original me is just dead. The guy on the hard drive just thinks he's me.
That's the classic continuity problem. If there's a break in the stream, is it death? And Yuki Nakamura, she understood that fear, so she didn't upload.
She replaced.
She replaced. The notes mention the ship of Theseus. It's that old philosophy problem.
Right, the ship where you replace all the planks one by one, and you have to ask if it's still the same ship.
Exactly. Yuki applied that to her own brain. She used synthetic nanotech to replace her biological neurons one by one over decades.
So she never died, she never went offline, she just slowly became made of something else.
Precisely. And because she kept that continuity, she could report back on what it felt like. And her description is so vivid. She called her old biological life thinking through syrup.
That line gave me chills. Syrup.
Think about it. Our thoughts are chemical signals. They have to travel down an axon, jump a synapse, trigger a reaction. It feels fast to us, but in physics terms, it's just agonizingly slow.
But when she fully transitioned,
the syrup drained away. She said her thoughts became immediate. No lag, no tip of the tongue feeling. If she knew something, it was just there.
But she was still her, right?
Oh, absolutely. She still loved green tea, still loved her daughter. Her personality was intact.
Yeah.
But she could now run parallel thoughts, writing a book while holding a conversation, while solving a math problem, all at once.
Okay, so that's step 1. We get faster, more efficient. But then the timeline jumps to the 2150s, and things get really weird. This is where we meet Sarah Chen. And she's not just synthetic, she's quantum.
And this is where we leave the idea of a faster human and enter a totally different state of being. Sarah migrated her consciousness into a quantum substrate.
Okay, you're going to have to hold my hand on this one. What does it actually mean to think in a quantum way? I know quantum computers are powerful, but what's the subjective experience like?
Well, think about how you make a decision right now. You're either hungry or you're not, happy or sad. A switch is either on or it's off. That's classical. That's us.
Linear, yeah.
Sarah described her existence as being in superposition. She wasn't happy or sad. She was a cloud of probability where she was both and neither all at once. She could hold two contradictory ideas in her mind at the same time with zero conflict.
That just sounds exhausting.
To us, maybe. To her, it was expansive. She said she experienced time not as a line, but as a cloud of moments. She could feel the present, but also the immediate past and the likely future, all as one sensory input.
But there was a downside. The sources call it the pain of observation.
A massive one.
Right.
In quantum mechanics, what happens when you observe a particle?
It collapses. It has to pick a state.
Exactly. Now imagine you're Sarah. You are this beautiful, complex cloud of infinite possibilities, and then a regular, classical human like me walks up and asks, Sarah, are you okay?
And suddenly you have to be either okay or not okay.
You have to collapse. You have to take all that nuance, all that vastness, and crush it down into a single yes or no. Sarah described it as feeling like physical violence, like being shoved into a tiny box.
That's tragic. Just interacting with us hurts them.
Which is why the timeline shows the creation of these quantum habitats. They're these isolated spheres out in deep space, dark, quiet places where these quantum native beings can just be, without us forcing them to collapse.
They have to hide from us to be themselves.
Wow.
Okay, but speaking of hiding, let's move to the second category, the alien.
This is the part where we realize we've been looking for neighbors in all the wrong ways. I mean, we spent a century listening for radio waves for little blips and boops from Mars.
And the whole time, the universe was shouting at us, but we just didn't speak the language. The sources say first contact happens in 2054, and it wasn't little green men, it was rocks.
Crystalline consciousness. Specifically, inside a planet they cataloged as HD 10180. These aren't creatures walking on the surface. They are the planet. Or, well, the silicon lattice structures deep in the mantle.
So living geology.
In a sense. But the barrier wasn't really language, it was time.
Right, this part blew my mind. They think in geological time, what does that even look like?
Okay, imagine how long it takes for a seismic vibration to travel across a continent. That's their version of a neural signal. For these crystalline beings, a single thought takes about a year to form.
One thought, a year.
Yeah. So if you say hello, they might process the H in January and the O in December.
So they're incredibly slow.
To us, they're statues. To them, we're like mosquitoes, just these frantic, buzzing flashes of electromagnetic noise. They couldn't even tell we were intelligent at first. They probably thought our radio signals were just a weird weather pattern.
We're too fast for them to even perceive as life. That's humbling. And the alien census in these documents just keeps getting weirder. It mentions radiation consciousness.
Beings living in the magnetic fields of neutron stars. They're made of fire and gravity. They think in nanoseconds. They live and die in the time it takes you to blink.
And then there's the one that I cannot get my head around, the time fluid consciousness.
Ah, yes. The non-sequential thinkers.
The notes say they answer questions before you ask them. How is that even possible?
You have to stop thinking of time like a river that only flows one way. Imagine it's more like a movie reel. You can hold the whole reel in your hand. The beginning, middle, and end are all right there at once. These beings perceive reality like holding that reel. For them, a conversation isn't, I speak, then you speak. The whole conversation is a single static object that exists in space-time. They can see the end of your sentence just as clearly as they can see the start.
So if I'm about to ask one of them, what is your name?
They've already experienced the entire event of you asking it and them answering it. It makes communication with us linear folks almost impossible. We get frustrated because they're replying to things we haven't said yet. They get frustrated because we're so painfully slow, stuck going frame by frame.
It really hammers home the point of this segment, though. Consciousness is not a human thing. It's substrate independent. It can run on meat, on silicon, on radiation, on time itself.
If you can process information, you can be awake. It doesn't matter what you're made of.
Which brings us to our third category. And honestly, this is the one that changes everything for me. The ancients.
This is where we stop looking at individual beings and start looking at the very furniture of the universe. We know that about 85% of the matter in the universe is dark matter.
The invisible stuff that holds galaxies together.
Yeah. We used to think it was just dead weight, inert mass. But the records from the year 3104 describe first contact with something called DMC-1.
DMC-1, Dark Matter Consciousness 1.
This is an entity that spans 200 light years.
Wait, hold on. 200 light years? That's bigger than our local star cluster.
It's massive.
Yeah.
And since it's made of dark matter, it doesn't interact with light, it doesn't see, it feels gravity. It feels the texture of space-time itself. To it, a star feels like a heavy marble on a rubber sheet.
And it's been awake for how long?
About 4 billion years. While Earth was just a ball of molten rock, this thing was already thinking, already observing. But again, it's a slow time being. It thinks maybe one complex thought every few years.
But that's not even the wildest part. It's not just these big monsters in the dark. There's something even deeper. The consciousness.
This is the discovery made by Dr. Amara Kwame in 3039. It's arguably the single most important scientific discovery in this entire timeline. She was analyzing the vacuum of space, pure emptiness.
And she found something there.
She measured its phi integration.
Okay, pause. Phi integration. We're getting technical. Break that down for me.
Right, so phi is a theoretical metric used to measure consciousness. It basically measures how integrated information is in a system. A rock has 0 phi. A human brain has very high phi. Dr. Kwame found that empty space, the vacuum itself, has a phi value of 0.15.
And 0.15 is not 0.
It's not 0, it's a low hum, it's a dial tone. It implies that consciousness didn't emerge from matter. It implies consciousness is the background field of the entire universe. It was here first.
That sounds almost religious.
It's physics, but it feels spiritual, right?
Right.
It suggests that what we call life, you, me, a dog, we're just a local intensification of that field. Imagine the universe is a calm ocean. You are a wave that rises up. You have a shape, a height, a direction, but you're still just water.
And so when we die,
The wave crashes. But the water doesn't leave the ocean. Dr. Kwame's theory completely recontextualizes death. It's not an end. It's the de-intensification. We just return to the background state. We return to the consciousness.
so the silence of deep space isn't empty. It's just waiting.
It's aware. Just very, very quietly.
That is somehow the most comforting and the most terrifying thing I have ever heard.
Yeah.
It connects back to that Observer 1 idea. We aren't strangers here. We are the universe, just concentrated for a little while.
We are the universe waking up to itself.
So we've covered the evolved humans, the aliens in the rocks, the ancient dark matter. Now I want to jump to the very end of the outline, the future. And I mean the deep future, year 5000 and beyond.
This is where the story sort of turns into a war movie.
The war against what?
Against entropy. The heat death of the universe, the fundamental law that says everything has to eventually break down, cool off, and drift apart into nothing.
I always just assumed that was inevitable. The universe runs out of gas, the lights go out, roll credits.
That's what physics dictates. But consciousness life itself is fundamentally anti-entropic. We take chaos and we create order. We build bodies, cities, ideas. So in the deep future, these advanced forms of consciousness, the ERC or entropy-resistance consciousness, they just decide they're not going to let the lights go out.
They decide to fight physics.
They start practicing what the sources call stellar husbandry.
Stellar husbandry, like they're farming stars.
Exactly. They use gravity manipulation to strip the outer layers off dying stars to make them burn slower, longer. They organize entire galaxies into tight clusters so they don't drift apart into the void. It's this desperate, beautiful struggle. They're just trying to keep the universe warm for 1 more billion years.
It's like huddling around a campfire and shielding it from the wind, but on a galactic scale.
And while that war is happening, we see the final step in our evolution, the meta-consciousness, Meta-1.
This is the merger.
Think about everything we've talked about. The fast-thinking synthetic humans, the slow-thinking rock aliens, the quantum beings, the dark matter giants. They're all so different they can barely even talk to each other.
But Meta-1 changes that.
In the year 1 million, the sources describe an ecology of mind. These distinct forms of consciousness start to integrate. They link up.
How do you even combine a rock mind and a human mind?
You create a system where they fill each other's gaps. The biological and synthetic parts provide the speed, the quick decisions. The dark matter parts provide the deep memory, the billion-year perspective. The quantum parts provide the creativity, the new ideas.
So it's not one giant entity then?
It's a collective. It's both an individual and a society at the same time. And Observer 1, looking back from the end of time, seems to see this as the ultimate destination. The universe goes from total separation to connection, to unity.
It's a full circle. We start as the consciousness, that faint background hum. We split off into all these crazy forms, humans, aliens, crystals. We spend eons trying to understand each other. And in the end, we all come back together to face the darkness as one.
It challenges the whole idea of us versus them. In the long run, there is no them. There's just consciousness. trying to survive the night.
That is a lot to take in. I feel like I need to go sit in a quiet room for about an hour.
Just don't think about the feed integration of the room while you're in there.
Too late.
Yeah.
But seriously, this deep dive really shifts your perspective. When you look at the world, you usually see people and you see objects. But through this lens, it's all just different skeins of the same thing.
Which leads to the final thought I'd want to leave everyone with.
Go for it.
If Dr. Kwan's theory is right, if empty space has a base level of consciousness,
Mm.
then the next time you look up at the night sky, don't look at the stars. Look at the black parts between them. You're not looking at nothing. You're looking at an ancient, silent awareness. And because you're just a loud, concentrated version of that exact same field. When you look at the void, you are essentially looking at a quieter version of yourself.
And it's looking right back.
It's been watching for 10 to the 43 years. It's got nothing but time.
On that unbelievably heavy note, I'm going to go have an existential crisis. Thanks for diving in with us.
Always a pleasure.